welcome back to another Heroes team video. I wanted to share with you that we have had a lot of people asking, about the financial management and some of the tools that they need to use to be able to plan ahead and be proactive in doing that. We have a couple of tools that we use. One is for the personal budget and one is for the business budget. So today we're going to go through that with Coach Andy. He's going to talk about how this spreadsheet works and how we can use it to make decisions. And I'll ask Dr. Jeff as well, and how this spreadsheet has impacted his business, his personal life, as well as his business. So Andy, go ahead.
So first of all, Victory 25, that's the name of the sheet. It was based on when I first decided to venture out in the world, and it was $25 a week allowance. Every other particular expenditure was budgeted for, and I was given a $25 a week allowance I allocated for myself that I could spend without thinking. Every other line item thought. So what we have is a very simple tool. You can take it, you can build your own with it, you can automate it more sophisticated. What we want is the information that's important, not necessarily the look or the feel of the sheet. So what it is that it's a budgeting sheet of where you get neutral, leave the emotions out of this, and go line by line. First rule when you do any budget is you work on the expenses first. Before you do the income, like a lot of people figure, I'm going to get this amount of income and I'll work the expense. Leave the income alone. Go through your line items. And what we have here is categories like allowances. You give your kids allowance yourself. Give yourself an allowance during these times. But you go through every single one. And the ones that are critical to pay attention to, for example, communication, mark it in red. Mark it in red. I need this. These are ones that are absolutely vital to pay attention to. So your very first step is to go through the line items here, and you can modify these to fit. This is just an overarching starting point, and you would just go through every single line item. And with each line item, you just read them all out. You take a look at the different insurances you have. You look at your incidentals, and incidentals are, your cleaning supplies. You have medical, you have membership, mortgage, and or rent. You mark it in red. These are the critical categories that you have to consider as your primary expenditures. There are variables and primary in personal budgeting. The variables are the ones that you can play around with. The primary are the ones that there's not a lot of leeway. First rule, see what is out there in helping you with these particular areas. Take a look at where you stand economically, find how much you have in your bank balance at this particular moment, see what your debts are. It is your starting point, and now you begin the sheet. The reason why we do budgets is what we're able to do is to put figures. Once we put our figures in the expense side and you talk to each line item, will I have home maintenance? Well, I don't think it's going to be that much, but next little while, I'm not going to do any repairs. Is there any investments? Well, I was investing this amount, this particular short time, I'm not going to do this. We work line by line. How do you estimate? And a budget is an estimate. But if you do this correctly, you're actually making real estimates. Once you have your figures of all these categories, it comes up with a total of which then in your budget at the very top would be the income. So $125, your income is $125. The key in budgeting, the key in this particular time is to break even. There are certain things that you're going to push to later dates. We understand that. We have no choice. But also, if the more that you are able to handle your expenditures in this time, your personal expenditures, the less gets deferred. And that's a key word in personal finance management, is not deferring as much as you want, because it would be great. But then when you recover, you're going to have to repay whatever you defer. So this is just a simple tool. It's how you approach the tool that makes it powerful. Line by line, by line, by line. How much goes in line? Talk it through. You have a significant other, work with that significant other. Go through these and put figures there. If you're not real, you'll soon find out what being surreal impact actually is. And if you're real, then you're going to find out, even if there's a red, there's a negative at the end of it. You know, you're spending more that's coming in, but at least you're understanding. The actual column is actually the most powerful part of the tool. If we do not put a budget, then often we're going reactive. Budgeting, estimating figures in these type of categories is proactive managing. You're making a projection that when you start, and we suggest every week, once a week, put your actuals from whatever way you're managing this beside it. And it's accruing towards it. The next week, the second week, it's now at 50. You're going to go, it's going to flag you. It's going to, oh, okay, I've gone over. And you know the stories, why it's happening. So you'll be able to say, okay, now I'm going to adjust my cell phone. I'm going to move it up to here. I'm going to work it out. And I'm not saying that you end up doing these adjustments all the time. I'm saying that you make your adjustments as you go along. By working with a simple tool like this, there are painful parts of this. I get it. But this is not a time to run away. In the best of times, we encourage people to do budgets. The primary reason why a health provider needs to do a personal budget, because they're going to have to do a business budget. If you don't do the personal budget first and foremost, how do you know how much we need from the practice? You just can't be pulling money out. This is a time where budgeting becomes the most powerful financial communicating tool you can actually develop and create. Dr. Lee?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. I think this is such a simple tool, yet I believe it's a very powerful tool. My first comment is, when we're doing this personal budget at home, it really gives me that clarity. And like everything is displayed here, right? It gives me that clarity of like, what are the important things, like Andy's putting in red, like what are the things that I have to take care of, and what are the not so important things. I've recently been having a lot of discussions with my wife as well as with the kids, and the reality of our situation. So my wife's about to get laid off, and we are, actively seeing what the government is offering. So we're taking all of this information and we're plugging it into our personal budget.
Sorry, and I'd like to interject at this point. You said something earlier. You talked about your kids. This is a great process that every teenager at least needs to learn, because this is a skill that lasts a lifetime. In the good times, this is incredibly powerful. In the struggling times, this is what holds you together.
Yeah, and I've had a great discussion with my 14-year-old, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because both my kids, they love to play piano, and that's a real treat for them. They love it, they enjoy it, and I had that discussion with them. It's like, you guys are both taking piano lessons, and they're doing it virtually right now, but that adds up. And I was very honest with them and saying, you know what, for the next couple of months, we just have to plan. I believe that there's still enough because we have set aside some money. I believe there's enough for the next 2 months. But if this goes on longer, we're going to have to, take a break from the lessons. You can still practice and play and all that. And the kids got that. They understood when they saw like the family budget. Another thing that we did as a bonus, the kids, we're still right now on spring break, and we ended up signing up for Disney Plus. And that was something that I thought was affordable, and it's part of our entertainment budget because we're no longer going out and doing different activities as a family. So, but I was able to use my personal budget to help me make those decisions. And then the last decision was communication. At home, we've got internet, we've got cable, we've got telephone. And the communication actually is a really important tool, because now that I've decided to, work from home, I can do some telemedicine at home. That is really important. So I've had to make sure that my internet can handle, more of the bandwidth. So those are just examples of how I'm looking at my personal budget to make some of these decisions. And I understand everyone's in a very, different situation at home, but I think the take-home message that Andy is saying, that you don't really know what you need from your business until you know what you need from your personal budget there. So that's what I really got.
The same thing, when you have the clarity of your personal budget, there also reduces the stressors at home, because knowing is 100 times better than not knowing. This is not something we can hide. We work with our financial situation, and this is just as good for the person who's on very low income as well as the person who's on a high income. This is a universal tool that no matter your financial situation, you can incorporate, because what it will do more than anything else, it will communicate to you. You'll have conversations with your home finances. You're going to be saying, oh, I spent 50. Oh, geez, why did I spend 50? It's because we did this, this, and this. That's been always what Heroes has said is the power of doing a budget, is to be able to get clarification so that you can make adjustments. You actually become more successful by utilizing budgets than by not, because with this, the word proactive becomes incredibly powerful. Without this, the word reactive becomes the most powerful tool. One is a positive, and I guarantee the other one is a negative.
Some great points, guys. I know when the word budget comes out, a lot of us just are feeling the fear. What is this budget? And not knowing what that means. So we have the spreadsheet here. It lays out all the different areas to fill out. And this is a good first step, if you haven't done this before, to lay out those costs of the various items, to give you a good tool to plan and be proactive in it. I'm sure once you get used to it, it's not so scary. But more importantly, it's going to give you a good foundation to make decisions, both personally, just like Dr. Jeff has mentioned, a lot of little decisions even. You can justify them based on the budget, but also for your business, where your business, you can relate back to what your needs are personally. So I hope these tips have helped you in managing your finances. I would love to find out other questions you may have. I know we just started to unpack this. Please feel free to comment below. We would like to address them in either future video or directly in the comments. And if this is helpful for you, it might be helpful for others. So feel free to share this with others, like this, and we want to continue to help you. So look forward to connecting with you. And thanks for joining us today. And in health and success, we're the Heroes.
Share it with the world. Share this with everyone you meet.